When it comes to promoting health and wellness, exercise is pivotal for the older adult. But what should they do? My name's Dr. Michael Mash, and welcome to this week's episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about the best exercises for older adults. And when it really comes down to it, the best exercises for older adults are probably the best exercises for everybody. And you will see when we get to number 4, what does best even really mean? So if we take the older adult population, some common issues we see is sarcopenia, muscle wasting with aging, which affects their ability to do everyday tasks. Everyday tasks like standing up out of a chair, reaching overhead for something, bending down to pick up something off the floor, suddenly become 1-rep maxes because of weakness. Can you imagine? You may know what it feels like to do a 1-rep max squat with hundreds of pounds on your back. Can you imagine if that's what it felt like to stand up out of a chair every day? That's rough. But here's how we combat this, especially with the older adult population. Number 1, sit to stand variations, squat patterns. Just like I just mentioned, one of the most foundational pivotal things we do as humans is our ability to stand up out of a chair or stand up off of the toilet. And if you lose this ability as you age, or it becomes so difficult that it's a 1-rep max, that is going to make your life really difficult. And that's something that we as fitness professionals and rehab professionals want to try and avoid. So sit to stand variations. No, this doesn't have to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds on a low bar back squat for granny in her 80s, but as simple as standing up out of a chair with your arms folded. Here, have this 5-pound kettlebell, hold it. Now I want you to stand up out of a chair. Oh, hey, you're having trouble standing up out of a chair unassisted? Why don't we do it and make it a little bit easier for you by putting a pillow on the chair, and now I want you to do it. So you have to find where that entry point is for the older adult. Find a sit to stand variation that they can do for about 5 to 8 reps that is challenging for them. This may be some sort of supported squat holding onto a bar. This may be some sort of sit to stand on a 2-inch foam pad or a pillow. You need to find that entry point, and you need to dose it right in that 5 to 8 rep range so that it becomes a challenge. Think about this. If you're doing a sit to stand with a 2-inch foam pad and granny's doing it for 5 sets of 5, that's going to make it so much easier to stand up out of a chair once. That now standing up out of a chair once, which used to be a 1-rep max for her, suddenly becomes easy peasy. That's what we want. So sit to stand variations are very, very important in order to carry over to functional activities during life. Number 2, picking stuff up off the ground. A common complaint of many older individuals, grandmas and grandpas alike, are I want to be able to lift my grandkid up off the ground, or I need to be able to lift groceries up off the ground. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to train the hip hinge pattern and just have them pick weights up off the ground. It doesn't need to look perfect. They don't need to get into a pristine neutral spine before you're afraid to even load it a little bit. Make them more resilient. Give them a kettlebell, maybe it's a kettlebell off of a stool, and have them lift it up off the ground for the sets of 5 to 8. Suddenly, when they're lifting 40, 50, 60 pounds off the ground for multiple sets, for multiple reps, lifting that bag of groceries or lifting their grandkid off the ground becomes that much more easy. 3, pushing overhead. There's a lot of fear involved with older individuals in training the overhead pattern because it may lead to rotator cuff tears, impingement, what have you. There's no evidence for this. If they have the mobility to get up overhead, we need to work on training strength through that range of motion. Or suddenly, they're not able to get a cup of coffee or a mug out of the cupboard. They're not able to take their groceries, which they've now deadlifted so perfectly off the ground, they're not able to put them away. They've essentially lost all of this function or their ability to act overhead. So this is why, as the fitness professional, we see what kind of range of motion they have. And if it's lacking, we can do specific mobility work to get back as much as we can. And we can also strengthen within that range of motion that they already have. Some sort of landmine press. Doesn't need to be a 45-pound barbell in the corner of the room. It may just be one of those 10-pound body bars that you put in a windowsill. Somehow you need to work on trying to train the overhead pattern in these older individuals. And 4, probably the most important part, maybe the best exercise for older adults ever, anything that they enjoy and can adhere to. It won't do anything if you just wag your finger and tell people to do things if they don't see the purpose of it and they don't enjoy it and they can't adhere to it. Movement is medicine, and we should be encouraging all kinds of movement patterns. So while things like sit to stands, picking stuff off the ground and pushing overhead will train large amounts of muscle mass over long ranges of motion to limit deconditioning, to limit sarcopenia, to build muscle mass and strength, you gotta sprinkle in stuff people enjoy too. If this is some sort of rotation work, anything that they can adhere to and they enjoy, that's what's gonna be the key. Because if you have somebody come in and do one session of sit to stands, picking stuff off the ground and pushing overhead, and they didn't enjoy it and they won't come back, then the point's moot. So got to sprinkle in stuff in there that they enjoy. Make it fun, help older individuals live life to the fullest by promoting maximal strength and range of motion. So thanks for attending this week's Whiteboard Wednesday. I will see you next week.